Salom, noram televin. Archai mocana rucht, nor tarmo televino tarmo chid, tarmo podcast, meme normond. خميمي وقد تتما بالات كنام أمو نور تماش در بورای انگلیسی نقل کنم ارچه خوفنونه تموتان غیوت تلوین اوسونده تسود اتا لبدتا نور روز ماش در بورای انگلیسی ترنگ انگلیسی kheido, انگلیسی ترنگ. Here's another thanks to my listeners. I've been in a conflict countries as my guest been in a conflict countries. So our mindset is more about basic emergency, basic life safety. That's in the back of our head. So when it comes to clarity and in these emergency rooms, hospitals or anything, for example, in Shugni, وادن یوازم یت واث چیرین چود خوی ویا چای بعد مو چیز لود خبات چدوم از تو چای از تو چیز لود تو اچت نفهم چای از تو چیز لود. So do you see, even if it's in Shugni language, but somebody comes like rushing to, imagine emergency, and we have been in the medical industry, right? And then imagine like there's an accident or something like absolutely. Very emergency, top emergency. I mean, I think
absolutely. And if for example, I was remembering the other day when you said some word in Shugni,
right?
And I wanted to know that word. I don't know what it was, but somehow it inspired me to think, and I liked it. And I said, "Can you say it again?" And Then I had to almost ask you 5 times to do it in syllables.
Right.
Like if I say, I'm just picking a word here now, habitat, right? Well, if the person's going to say habitat, that's how it sounded. And when you split it up into Shugni, into right. syllables, I was able to do it. Now, why do I care? Why am I so fussy? Heaven forbid, but if you needed help and you're living in America or you've come to Canada or wherever you've gone to out of your own world, if you can't make yourself, your address clear, today it's not that, it's much easier than the old days, because if you can just say your address, part of it, they will find you on GPS.
Right.
And they will come. But if you don't even have the first few letters,
right.
I'll give you an example. I'm in an aircraft and I want to know should I give a particular drug? And so I will spell out the drug, but if I'm clear,
right.
the person at the other end might only get 5 letters, but it'll fall into place.
Right.
So, for example, if I want to say I live in Smithsonian Street, and I can say, hang on, I'm just writing it so we'll get it nice, Smith.
Yeah.
And then son. Now, if I say I live in Smith Street, and I say that really fast, we have to understand that it could be an Arabic speaker at the other side of the phone.
Right.
It might not be a native English speaker from birth. It could be me. It could be somebody who's older. So if you can say, where do you live? Where do you live? I live in 50 Smithsonian Street. Now, that lady, you don't know. You could be panicking. The phone could be bad, the phone connection, anything. But if you can say, shall I spell it? That lady will say yes. And you will go Sierra, Mike, India, Tango, Hotel. And she'll say, oh, Smith. And you will say, no, it's more Smithson. Oh, and now she has to put the right letters.
Right.
Smithson.
Right.
You get that? She's already finished.
Yeah.
Because it's not spelled. She can't put it into her GPS. So you would have to say Sierra, Oscar, November. And as soon as you got to the Oscar, she can say November. It means your ambulance or your helicopter will come in less time. And we have in medicine that saying, the golden 20 minutes now.
This is amazing, and I will bring it back to the to people who listen to me. To my tribe. In Shugni language, the clarity of instructions is yet not there, at least in my experience, because the example of chai chizlud, aska chayat tarkayat, you ask them every instructions that comes to you linguistically, like by language they speak.
Because I was a foreigner and struggling in English, they were trying to make it easy for me.
Oh.
I didn't understand. So some of the words where you might say, I shall inform my teacher, they would say, I shall tell my teacher.
Right.
By this time, I already knew the difference between tell and inform. And we would say normally, I will tell Johnny he mustn't do that again.
Right.
But we're not likely to say, I shall inform Johnny that he shall not do that again. Right. Mind you, when you're with university students, probably today not, but every country is suffering because the standard of language is falling. It's actually falling. And I learned from a Dr. yxmand, who taught English at a university in England, and he wrote Clearer Thinking, I think it was, and he said people could end up killing each other just because of language, poor language acquisition.
Yeah, this is amazing. Before me even asking these questions, you kind of the experiences that you had, not only in one place, but being in different parts of the world, through different journeys that you went. And I apologize that I kind of narrowed today's topic into only English, but I must tell to my listeners that my guests have experience beyond the size of this podcast and beyond the size of this subject English. But sorry, so I apologize that I narrowed it down. But again, to my listeners, I want to bring, you were a perfect mehman, guest, to bring not only just technical English, but the variety of life experiences that people who are in a journey of learning English, including me, for a clarity of current world that we face a lot of challenges. And I will bring back an example of mocking. The Shugni way, I call it, my tribal way, which is it's a funny, sad, but it creates a funny story. Then it creates a funny, then you sadden by that experience.
Oh yeah.
For example, in my experience, first generation, around 97, let's say that's a reference point, when Pamiri started to travel to Western countries. The first language is Pamiri, Shugni, which is mine, and the second probably Russian. So now my link forward to say that, okay, the Shugni who are in Canada, the Shugni speakers, we know that they're Shugni. Tribal, everyone knows each other, and that's I always say. The Shugni who is in Canada and the Shugni who is in United States, right? And the Shugni, let's say in the northern part of United States, the Shugni who are in Europe, Central or more UK, Europe, and then the Shugnis who are in India and Pakistan and Australia. So they're all over.
Yes.
the funny things about the Shugni native speakers and the other one that is trying to speak English, there is a large amount of mocking. They will say, oh, your English is not good enough. And I remember the YouTube that I created about COVID from Abu Dhabi, and all what my friend did, I will put it in quote and unquote. Yeah. So anyway, what he did, he picked up all the negative words. And then there was like one, they picked up, the topic was about COVID. And,
Right.
what do you do when you stay at home? And then this is emergency. This is pandemic around the world. And I'm trying to bring to my Shugni tribe a basic, please do not panic, but use, these things at home. Wash your hands and da. But they picked up the English of it and they trying to correct me. I did not pronounce it well. I did not say it correctly. And the article, or she did not. Iro jaj bashan the article nalut. Iro dam pronunciation. It bashan anglisem is gapthed. It vocis jat anglisem mashan lev. Dam voces. It sash vosarkicht mashan anglise gapthed. Do you see what I'm bringing to?
Yes.
This whole Pamiri tribe. But the mocking of it.
Yes, absolutely.
And it is right, like we're smiling right now, although they don't see us, but on the same time,
it hurts.
It hurts.
It hurts. It can hurt so much. So the gentleman brought me the menu, and I pointed to crepe Suzettes. But I wasn't sure if I was saying it correctly. So I just pointed and I said, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. And he said, oh, crap Suzette. Well, it was embarrassing because the students that I were with spoke very good French.
Wow.
And they were rolling all over the floor, laughing, that poor man. So when he came back, I tried to explain. I've asked my friends, how do we pronounce that word? And they told me crepe. And the gentleman said, well, I don't care. This is how we say it, and it's crap. And that is really not a word for the dinner table.
Wow.
So it makes a difference. However, having laughed, I'm so much more relaxed because you help me to laugh. And I urge anybody, make it fun. They're not going to shoot your dog if you say crap instead of crepe. But having somebody sign, stop and check the word with them. How should I say it? Don't keep repeating the wrong word if they're clearly you're not pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, I'll just summarize it in Shugni.
Yes.
I don't know why I do it. I think my listeners are much more smarter than but I don't know why I kind of I'm here with you and they don't have a visual of us, and because why don't put a video for now, and then I think from their behalf it's just like. And it's kind of these educational moments. Okay, here's what I do, a summary for you. So the educational moment. Uznava oshija holosakinom mordiska devest jachbecen marutsa чесен verodar mocanagin wadin this умничка ени this помаза молодец газ беценела мочесен просто акледор зор но чеч холосакином арчай месолик de anglice luvd archai automat schönt jo da busse marchica shugapet na vardot luvdo خطوة да мондо же игдискамис خطوем чу барлем хай коик тошеш лодета царанглоевин хузбамис делем. It just brings me another example, and it's so current, and that's why I love these podcasts, because it is semi-scripted.
Yes,
and we and suddenly you remember one example. So please do share, because it's a life experience. It's a life we talk about.
Bless you. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, because the beauty of and I did tell my audience, the listeners, we are not at university. Although it says Dr. Amina, but we're not at university. But on the same time, we are not in a street. A street could be vastly understood, but for Palmiris, I would say, masham dargonde nist, masham gatar universitet nist, madin zindagi gapin diska nakhtitc kena. So in one of the examples, I'll speak it in English, maybe I'll tell them, when I come to the western part, the travel, usually people have a hard time with my last name. And I usually say, now I am much better to say, this is my tribal grandfather name. And then I go through alphabeticals, the one that you taught me. In fact, I'm so grateful, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, I tell Delta, Echo. So, and I go through this, Delta, Alpha, davlat. But one of our amazing friend recently, in one of the meeting, he's like, I have no idea how to say your last name. And then I remembered the Pink Panther movie, right? Yeah. So in French, very heavy accent in French. And then he wants to come to United States. And then he goes through this English tutor. And then he says like, I would like to have a hamburger. And then the tutor teacher's like, I would like to have a hamburger. And then da baga. And then I told him, well, if you don't know how to pronounce davlat, you just say da baga. So it's just a moment of laughter.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when you did teach me your last name. And again, like all foreigners to English, you talk like machine gun. And it was little. And I said, excuse me? And I remember thinking, good Lord. And then when I said, would you do me a favor? Could you please just write it? And then your writing wasn't that clear and I couldn't read it anyway. So it was good writing, don't get me wrong. I'm not insulting you, but you had that European sort of Central Asian script and I couldn't work out if it was Russian or what. And then I said, okay, I just want you to write it in capital letters and leave spaces. And then we had davlat, eva. And I said, well, davlat, what's the matter with you? Meaning to me, but when I heard it the first time, there was no way. Okay, look, you can all get a laugh. Here we're not uneducated. Dr. Amina, she has, obviously, Dr. Amina, that says it all. And I'm not saying what I am or am not, because I don't want to do that anymore, but I don't have to. Yeah. She does. You don't do. Have to. I'm sorry, because of your work. You don't have a choice. I do. No.
And I loved it when you ask the questions, do they know you're a doctor? And I say, I don't think they realize that I am a doctor.
Well, they don't. America's very funny. Remember that movie where the actors, there's a character in a movie and he's being introduced, Dr. Smith, Dr. Brown, Dr. Bloggs, Dr. Jenny, Dr. Rachel, and the newcomer who's not a doctor. And he says, doctor. Oh my God, is everybody sick here? And I couldn't help laughing, but in other languages, for example, in Arabic,
right?
I worked in a school and for 8 months, I couldn't pronounce the name of the school because I taught English.
Right.
I didn't teach Arabic, or then I taught French too. But that was
not German,
really
you
fair.
taught Latin.
Yes, Latin, oh my love. But what happened was I couldn't pronounce the name of the school. So I didn't normally have to answer the phone. The secretary was there. Right. But if she was on a break or I heard the phone ringing and she wasn't at her desk, so I'd pick up the phone and I'd say, good morning, this is Beaky, oh, I do beg your pardon. I never said the name of the school for 8 months because I couldn't get one of these people to write it for me in Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, if they'd done that. And that's the only reason that I actually taught French.
And I think this is amazing coming from Dr. Dr. Amina, because the spelling, write it, and do not hesitate, ask a question. People are much better with each other when it comes to language. They will help you. Even in Shugni, and I'll summarize a little bit in Shugni. Agar ik me ziv varcha khoich ki kas kho ziv yxmand chido, mashando talevino learn for all your life. Talevin kho tamam zindagin de ikdam safar donish antsate اشث متیو خرمندایک من دوت شچد نیست اشث خرمنداستو مردم تطوریوردم که نوشوه ارانگدم و فامیل دروز زور تروید خو بعد ودمین روز نوشم خو یسود او سنده زور ارانگ مس ممیمون مسول تلیف نوش دخو او سنده سود مردمینین امیخا خویش که نینیگا او دمر یوردم چیدو در زفقت خویش تکنه بلد ستو. There's another things to my listeners. I have like a paradox, and I think it's a learning curve for me. One is this podcast thingy. Everyone says, "Oh, you are now blogging," which is like, what is it? The other one is the technology. My life have been so much offline. And this digital technology all around me is actually overwhelms me. So, and constantly I tell my listeners, disclaimer. This is all education. And this is the world of life learning. Language is not just a small, my name is
yes, correct.
Shirin Mo. My name, I come. Oh, typical when they write is like, my name is.
Do you know what? I think you and I have learned so much from each other because our ego's not there. We're not trying to compete with each other, but speaking about ego, I'm going to ask you a question, which is, I don't know what the time is.
Right.
And I'm just wondering if I'm talking too much. No, you will tell me.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, we're good. Now, so I would just like to say that if you're thinking of me, and I was thinking of me, I wouldn't be here. And what have I got to tell my kids? I was on a podcast or whatever you call this.
I know.
And sometimes I can't help it. This woman, I look in the mirror and I think, who's she? She come from that very tiny little village little tiny village on the river, and went back as an adult and knew she didn't fit there. Everywhere she went, she didn't fit. But there's 2 places where she fitted, language and math.
Oh, beautiful.
So no matter what happens in your life, if you've got language and you can draw on poetry, you can draw on the words of your grandparents. They had words and something they said when you were small, young, a child, you would remember that to this day. And if you have language, you can even create a story out of it.
It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Remember the animal, the animal world.
Oh yeah. I've forgotten the thing.
Yeah, it's about, when we mankind, we human, insan al-makhluq,
yes,
we have been giving this language.
Oh, I'm with you. Yes. This is it. You've really touched on something which is I don't know how I forgot it because it's so dear to my heart. I look at humans and sometimes I feel like screaming because I might be struggling to do something well. And they'll tell me, oh, you're only human. Excuse me. I think, do you have goats in your world, in your mountains? Do you have goats? Or sheep? Or
we have sheep.
You have
we
sheep.
have goats.
All right. And what do your goats sound? What do they do? What's the sound of a goat?
Oh, that's hard. Ba.
Oh, okay then. The goats that I knew, they were very articulate, and they would go. Okay, fine. That can get a bit noisy and very tedious, but I never ever saw a goat elder sitting with a goat younger, and the conversation I never heard. No, it's not. It's. I never heard it. The human is the only creature to our knowledge that can improve the way they speak.
Yeah.
If there's any English speakers listening to us in England, and maybe their friends are listening, if your mother said, what are you going to do that for? It doesn't mean you have to talk like that.
Mm.
And it also doesn't mean that you can't understand it. But if you do not speak your own language or the language where you're coming, and if you speak, what are you doing that for? And everyone else is saying, I say, why are you actually doing that?
Yeah.
You're going to feel like horrible, like useless, like something out of the farm, and not even worthy of. You won't feel good.
Oh, definitely. I mean, in Pamiri language, and this is one of the. I will say I'm grateful because when I speak Shugni, I guess for listeners, particularly Shugni virtual, like digital, like right now we are recording it in Shugni language, it appears like because there's a lot of hate and the messages that are coming to me, it's a very broken Shugni, and it's the nature, the way how they write to me, it appears very disrespectful. Like, although like
why would they do that?
In my tribe, in Shugni tribe, I consider myself like I'm becoming like a sisterly role, elderly, yet not that old.
No,
but existence, meaning like, and it's written there, right? It's written, doctor. But the way how it comes to me is very vulgar. To me, it's a very
sad,
vulgar Shugni. Hey, you. Or hey, like this hey thingy. It's although the paradox, my culture is known for respecting.
Right.
And I will summarize this in Shugni, but which saddens me when it's like, why would this whole, in my tribe, but why would refer, particularly they write to me.
Okay.
Why would they refer with such a vulgar, although as much as it is so clear, it's clear as the mountain in Pamir, that I follow the decency and the words that I speak. These are ancient grandparents. The topic that I talk, the grounded in respect.
I know, and there's a good answer, I read it the other day, but I can modify the answer a little bit. There's a very good answer. I have taken what you have said quite seriously, and I'm thinking about it, and I could respond to you. However, my good manners and my family's background prevents me from doing so. So you can modify that. We read it the other day, something about, I could say exactly that of you, but and my dignity prevents this. Like, you won't get that crass. I'm not like you. Sometimes I'm probably a bit more like out of the barn. I think I've been polite all my life.
Right.
And now this is what I do in my own fit, or people we work with sometimes. They say something to me, and if you can say in really good language, whatever language you're talking, if you can say, "Oh, can you say that again, please?"
Yeah.
Just ask for a repetition, and in my experience, the English speaker has modified that hurtful sentence. "Oh, that's not quite what I meant."
Right.
When they go red and when they look uncomfortable, as you have a command of English, you can say, "Actually, it is what you meant."
Huh.
And it's not very nice.
Wow.
And because you have command of English, you can do that.
Right.
Or language. But that's why I think it's because for many years I was afraid to speak. It was as though everybody put muck on my head and I'd say, "Yes, more, give me more. I deserve more." But I didn't.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
And so.
And in this kind of in this podcast, it's all.
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing here? We're not trying to hurt anybody. And that's why we said the disclaimer, well, I could do mine. I am not perfect. I'm not the perfect speaker I want to be. But I make sure that I remember I'm not a goat.
Yeah.
And a goat mightn't be able to improve their... But I can improve. And if I'm not clear with my words, I can say, "Oh, sorry." And before I come next time, I will sit and say Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and so on.
Yeah, and I think I'll just summarize. It's very interesting how it's just playing out, this particular section of podcast as doing English and Shugni. But well, there you go. It's just an amazing. This is what it is. It's because yes, I am Shugni and yes, I speak in English. But خلاصه ماش صوبات نروز دمانه دی تلوین خلاصه که نمیدی در تجربه ما فنا خوزف انگلیسی از خودت شد یا در سفر یک ده خیدو انگلیسی نقلچید خوا گپتhed خوا فوکاجو از تلوین زمید که کنم ایلاوین گویو مثل گویو با حرف خورد انگلیسی لuvd خب بعد از ویفی اینو پاستا دین شانده ویف یو دسگایو mocking تا دلوی مثل شانده ویف مسخره ویف کنیم پاس ویف دین یواد گویو باشان انگلیسی نفهمین در جاون آموزش در جاون تلوینو فرقت بین ایوان از انسان نمونه نروزند ایوانین تلوینه نه ایوانین یه نمود زوکا کنین اما ویفنده که دی محدودیت اولام ایوانوتند دی و تلوینو تر پروس توی بوفت و نبوفت انجد حتی انسان المخلوق تلوینو خو نفسی طرفت عقلیت تلوین اخلوقت کردور قطع یم زمیناییت ستن خو تو باید داشت تلوینو گیر نسا خود کورچید یکی از دیف خود کورچید کورین ایگازه از خود چیدو و برای ده از اچه ثرمت نکنم او دمین دی تشان دی ویف او دمین دی مو کنین انگلیسی تلوین نه مسخره ویف کنین واد باشان انگلیسی gapthed نواردودت شان بیغمت شین تین تا فوق خطو کنه پیخت از به اودم لا دیده باطان لوین یو например استالیم خبت خوزف قد شاندم دنجات لیم ها إذا خطوهم شو تو есть خطو کنه و روز خو کنه خطو کنه انگلیسی زو نروزند ایت فقط در محدودیت دی منو my name is so and so نسته دوشه از کتاب nakhtitc رنگو شتاش و خوف نونه تلای مرانگو تو خوف تس خوف دو تس تساید دز انگلیسی مز دز گارش زمینار تس سود جنت главне царang до хозевлеве тарз бочат хоманжа да ход морд месол да ход бис зевас хокене да ход арсаранген да ход сетте таже аммо главное инсон хот кор кихт егазев норузан з англиси лем донжат зом диска идмоне гоҳи назар ту варде русе аз хокене егазев аз хокене хатои аз хокене Spanish as хокене любой зев аз хокене не хо акцент куркене хо kheido te куркене дадин цавур левджин англиси English is a four-wheel language it's цавур тарафак зев поэтому норузанд ага ям қисм тамардшун чак вуде تامی تلوی مشقته هم صوبت شینتت مشقته سرنگ مشقت کرقت شاندم لیوم با چیز خطوم چو زتوست خود کور کنم we are not perfect ماشی چاثم فوکثم تلوی نو انسان پر از گناهین فوک خطوین از خطوم زوز خطو کنم خرشش توز خطو کنم روز خو کنم it doesn't matter از روی ده خطوی ترسلوی مزاره تا سیم تس نسود it's okay to make mistakes موند ایمنا در سفر انگلیسه уже از 95 دوزغال اک دزفت کورتا کنم تلوی خواه انگلیسه سوز کنم یا بوره مرد آچت نفورد انگلیسه تکابدد یا بوره مر خوش زور انگلیسه تکابدد поскольку могаргинуха лап зор 99% میفروزینن موگرگینوفا فقط انگلیسی تیست و سلوینو خدا رو شکر و ذکر من پودکاست خوف نوینه تلیم خوف نوینه مزنر نسام so we are taking a break ماشش رو سلوینو break کنم ماشن یک چند قسم گمسی است and then we will be back ووتا обратно ядам тархо podcast